The night was wild, rain hitting the ground like tiny bullets, thunder growling across the dark sky. The streets were empty. Only flashing lights from broken street lamps gave short glimpses of the flooded road. Ethan drove his old truck slowly, wipers moving fast. He was on his way home from work, tired and cold. His job at the repair shop was boring, but it paid the bills. The world outside his window looked like a movie, silent, wet and lonely. As he turned the corner near the old bridge, his headlights caught something strange. A small figure stood in the middle of the road, completely soaked in the rain. Ethan hit the brakes hard, the truck skidding a little before stopping. He stepped out, pulling his jacket tight. "Hey, are you okay?" he shouted over the rain. The figure didn't move as he came closer. He saw it was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, barefoot, wearing a torn white dress. Her hair stuck to her face, her eyes wide open but blank. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked softly, trying not to scare her. The girl looked up slowly and said only one sentence, her voice shaking. "They're coming." A cold chill ran through Ethan's body. He looked around, but there was no one in sight. Only the sound of rain and the wind moving trash across the street. "Who's coming?" he asked, but she didn't answer. She just stood there, her small hands holding a metal bracelet with strange glowing lines. Ethan couldn't leave her there. The storm was too strong and she was freezing. He picked her up gently and took her to his truck. She didn't fight, she didn't even speak. She just looked outside the window as he drove, whispering something he couldn't understand. When they reached his small workshop, Ethan helped her inside. He gave her a towel and a cup of hot chocolate. The girl sat on a chair near the heater, staring at the steam rising from the cup. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then said softly, "Leah." "Okay, Leah, where's your home?" "Can I call your parents?" Ethan asked, but the girl only shook her head. She looked scared, as if the question itself hurt her. Then the lights flickered once, twice, and then came back. Ethan sighed, thinking it was just the storm, but Leah's eyes followed the ceiling light, her lips moving again. "They found us," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "Who found you?" he asked again, but before she could answer, a loud metallic sound came from outside, like something heavy dragging on the wet road. He went to the window, pulled the curtain slightly, and his heart stopped outside through the heavy rain. He saw 3 dark figures moving slowly between the cars. They didn't look human, tall, thin, and shining with blue lights under their skin. "What on earth?" Ethan whispered, but before he could say more, Leah ran to him and pulled his arm. "Don't open the door," she said, her voice suddenly strong. "Please don't let them see us." Ethan didn't understand, but he could feel her fear. He turned off the lights and crouched near the window, watching the figures move closer. They made soft clicking sounds, scanning the area with a blue light beam that moved like a scanner. One of the lights passed over his truck and stopped. The figure turned its head toward the workshop. Ethan's breath froze. Leah held his hand tightly. The figure stood there for a few seconds, then moved on, disappearing into the storm. For a moment there was silence, only the rain tapping softly on the window. Ethan looked at Leah. "What were those things?" he whispered, but she didn't answer. She only said one thing before closing her eyes. "You shouldn't have helped me." Ethan sat there, confused, worried, and strangely afraid. The storm outside grew stronger, but he didn't move. He watched the little girl sleeping on the chair, her bracelet still glowing faintly. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled again, and a deep metallic echo followed it. Almost like a response, Ethan didn't know it yet, but that night had changed everything. He wasn't just a man who helped a lost child.
He had just stepped into a story that didn't belong to this world.
The storm had ended, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the rain. Ethan woke up on his chair, his head resting on the table. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he saw the small blanket on the couch, and remembered the girl, Leah. She was still asleep, her tiny hand holding that strange glowing bracelet. It was brighter now. Pulsing like a heartbeat, Ethan leaned closer, his curiosity stronger than fear. The lines on the metal weren't random. They looked like some kind of code, small symbols moving inside the metal like liquid light. He whispered to himself, "What are you, kid?" Suddenly, the bracelet flashed and showed a brief image, a city in the clouds shining with towers of silver and blue. Then it disappeared. Ethan stepped back, shocked. He looked at the little girl. She was awake now, watching him quietly, Her eyes looked deep, too deep for a child. You shouldn't touch that, she said softly. Ethan raised his hands. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to, he said, trying to smile. I'm just trying to help you, Leah. I need to know who you are. Where you came from? She looked down. Silent, then she said something strange. You fixed the signal. Didn't you? Ethan frowned. Signal? What signal? Before she could answer, the workshop lights blinked again. Not from the power and from interference, his old radio turned on by itself, whispering static and strange voices. The sound wasn't human. It was like a broken machine trying to speak. Leah stood up suddenly. They are still looking, she said, fear flashing in her eyes. We have to hide. Wait, Ethan said. Who is looking for you? What's going on? The girl looked at him, her voice shaking. They took my father. They want me next. Ethan's heart sank. He didn't know what to believe. Maybe she escaped from some secret lab. Maybe she was imagining things, but the way she spoke didn't sound like a lie. He knelt down. Leah, I promise, you're safe here. No one is going to hurt you. For a moment she looked calm, then she smiled weakly. You're kind, just like he said. Ethan blinked. Who said? Before she could reply, a loud metallic knock came from the back door. Ethan froze. The girl's bracelet turned dark red. Pulsing fast, he turned off the lights again. He moved quietly to the window. His breath caught. Outside stood one of the same tall figures from last night. Its glowing eyes scanning the walls, it looked like a mix of metal and skin. Something alive but not human, Leah whispered. If they find me, they will take you too. Ethan's heart raced. Not happening, he said under his breath. He grabbed a wrench and his small EMP device from the table, one he used to test broken circuits. The figure outside started moving toward the door. The handle shook once, twice, then Ethan hit the switch. The device released a short electric pulse. The workshop lights flickered. The air smelled like burning wires outside. The creature twitched and fell to its knees. Its lights fading, Leah stared, amazed. You stopped it, she said. Ethan was sweating. Yeah, for now, he said. But I think we should leave. He grabbed his jacket and her hand. They ran out the side door into the narrow alley behind the workshop. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with fog. As they moved quietly through the empty streets, Leah kept looking around nervously. You shouldn't have helped me, she said again. Now they will follow you too. Ethan shook his head. Well, too late for that, he said with a faint smile. I'm not leaving you alone, not until I know you're safe. They reached an abandoned subway entrance. Ethan helped her down the broken stairs. The smell of rust and dust filled the air. Down below, he found an old power room, safe enough for now. Leah sat down. Hugging her knees, the bracelet glowed blue again. She whispered something, and the light formed a small hologram. A man's face. Kind but tired. He looked at her and said, Leah, if you're hearing this, it means they found me. Trust the human. He will protect you. Ethan's eyes widened. That's your father. She nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. He was taken when he tried to hide me. Ethan felt something stir in his chest, an anger, pity, and a strange connection to this little stranger. He didn't understand her world, but he understood danger and fear and loss. He looked at the hologram again. Who are you people? He asked softly. Leah whispered, we came from the sky. But we made a mistake. Before Ethan could ask more, her bracelet blinked red again. They're close, she said. Ethan took a deep breath. Then we'll move again before sunrise. He didn't know where they were going, or what they were running from, but one thing was clear now. This little girl wasn't human, and his life would never be the same again. The morning sun rose weak and pale, hidden behind heavy clouds. The city still looked half asleep, its tall buildings shining wet under the early light. Ethan stood near the window of his workshop. Holding a cup of cold coffee, his eyes were tired, his mind restless. It had been 2 days since Leah disappeared. He had searched everywhere, streets, alleys, the subway tunnels, but she was gone without a trace. The only thing left was her broken bracelet lying on his work table. Still glowing faintly, he missed her small voice. The way she looked at the world, like it was both strange and beautiful. He told himself she must have found her mother. Maybe they went home, wherever that was, but deep down, he didn't believe it. Something about that night stayed in his mind. The machines, the lights, her words, they're coming. He had fixed her bracelet again, hoping it might help him find her. Every time it blinked, he felt like it was calling someone, or something. That afternoon, the air grew heavy again. Like before a storm, Ethan felt a strange pressure. The machines in his workshop started turning on by themselves. The radio, the fan, even the old computer screen. He turned around quickly and his heart stopped. Leah was standing there in the middle of the room. Her hair was dry, her face calm. She looked the same, yet different. Her bracelet now glowed bright white like a star. "Leah," Ethan whispered, unable to believe his eyes. "Where were you? I thought you were gone." Before she could answer, another light filled the room, and a woman stepped out of it. She was tall, graceful, her skin pale with a faint silver tone. Her eyes shone like glass, reflecting light in a strange way. "Don't be afraid," the woman said softly. Her voice was calm but powerful. "My name is Ilara. I am Leah's mother." Ethan froze. He didn't know what to say. He looked at Leah, then back at the woman. You're not human, are you?" Ilara gave a small, sad smile. "Not completely," she said. "But we once were." Leah ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "He helped me," she said. "He kept me safe." Ilara looked at Ethan with warmth in her eyes. "You saved my daughter, and by doing that, you saved me too," she said. "Thank you." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "I just did what anyone would," he said, but she shook her head. "No, not anyone would face the dark machines of the Syndicate." He frowned. "Syndicate," he repeated. "That's what those things were." "Yes," Ilara said, her voice lowering. "Hunters created by our own kind. They destroy everything that remembers peace." She placed a hand on Leah's shoulder. "We ran from them, but your world is not safe anymore." Before Ethan could speak, a strange humming sound filled the air. It was coming from outside. Ilara turned quickly toward the door, her eyes glowing faint blue. "They found us," she whispered. Through the window, Ethan saw 3 flying drones, dark and sharp like metal birds scanning the streets. Their lights turned red as they hovered near his workshop. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. "How do we stop them?" he asked. Grabbing his tools, Ilara looked at him. "We don't fight," she said. "We run." She pressed a small device on her wrist. A bright wave of light passed through the room, and suddenly the world around them shifted. The air shimmered, and everything outside the window looked frozen in time. "What did you do?" Ethan asked in shock. "I slowed them down," Ilara said, her voice calm but strained. "It will only last for a minute." Ethan grabbed his bag, filled it with tools, and nodded. "Then let's move." They ran out the back door, through the fog-filled streets, the sound of frozen drones still buzzing faintly in the distance. As they reached the empty subway entrance again, Leah looked up at Ethan. "Mom says you can help us." "Like Dad did," she said. Ethan stopped, catching his breath. "Your dad?" "He was," Ilara interrupted gently. "He was one of us. But he believed humans still had light in them. He believed you were special." "Ethan," Ethan blinked. "Special me," he said with a laugh. "I fix broken radios," Ilara smiled, "and sometimes broken worlds." The sound of time catching up filled the air, the hum of the drones returning to life. The light of their scanners reached the subway entrance. Ilara placed her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Come with us," she said. "If you stay, they will destroy everything connected to you." Ethan looked at the little girl, then at her mother. In that moment, he realized his old life was already gone. He took a deep breath. "All right," he said. "Let's run together." As they disappeared into the darkness of the tunnels, the drones swept over the empty streets searching. The light of the bracelet was the only thing glowing in the blackness. A small pulse of hope against the endless storm. The tunnels were cold and wet, dripping with old rainwater. The sound of their footsteps echoed off the stone walls. Ethan led the way with a small flashlight, its weak beam trembling against the darkness. Behind him, Leah held her mother's hand, her bracelet glowing softly. The air smelled of dust, metal, and something older, like forgotten time. "Where does this tunnel go?" Ethan asked. His voice low, Ilara answered. "It connects to the old subway network. It's hidden from their sensors for now." Ethan glanced back at her. "For now doesn't sound good," he said. She gave a faint smile. "It never is." They kept walking until they reached a wide space, a broken station, half flooded, old posters hanging in pieces on the cracked walls. The silence here was heavy, only broken by the soft hum of Leah's bracelet. Ethan sat down for a moment, wiping sweat from his face. "We can't keep running like this," he said. "We need a plan." Ilara looked at him, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dim light. You think like an engineer, always planning, she said gently. That's why he chose you, Ethan frowned. Who? My husband, she said quietly. Before he was taken, he said someone from this world would help us finish what he started. Ethan shook his head slowly. You're saying he knew me. Not you, she said. But what you could become. Before Ethan could reply, the ground vibrated. The sound came from far down the tunnel, a deep mechanical rumble that grew louder each second. Ilara stood, her expression tense. They found us again. Ethan turned toward the sound. How? Leah looked at her bracelet. They're tracing the energy signal, she whispered. They can smell light. Great, Ethan muttered. And we've got a glowing bracelet with a built-in flashlight. Ilara placed her hand on the bracelet, whispering something in a strange language. The light dimmed, turning into a dull gray. That will slow them down, she said. But not for long. Ethan scanned the station quickly. His eyes fell on a broken control box near the old platform. He ran over and opened it, wires spilling out. If I can reroute this, he said, I can overload the power grid in this section. Cause an electromagnetic burst? Ilara tilted her head. That could stop their sensors. Or fry us all, Ethan said with a small grin. 50-50 chance, she looked at him seriously. Then make it count. Ethan started working fast, twisting wires together, sparks flying. Leah watched with wide eyes. You're brave, she said. Like my dad. He smiled. Let's hope I'm luckier. The rumble turned into a screech. Metal claws scraping the tunnel walls. The syndicate drones appeared, sliding forward on long metallic legs, their red lights scanning. Their voices mechanical and cold. Target located, one said. Retrieve the child. Ilara stepped in front of Leah, her hands glowing bright silver. A circular wave of energy burst from her palms, smashing into the first drone and sending it crashing into the wall. Ethan shouted, now or never, and slammed the switch. A blast of light filled the station, blue sparks shooting through the old cables. The air shook and the drones fell motionless, smoke rising from their bodies. For a few seconds, everything was silent again. Only the sound of water dripping. Ethan coughed and looked around. You okay? Ilara nodded weakly, her energy fading. It worked, she said. But you can't stay here, more will come. Leah grabbed Ethan's hand. We can go to the upper city, she said. There's a portal there. Mom said it's hidden. Ethan looked at Ilara. Portal? Yes, she said softly. A gateway left from when our people first came here. It leads to a safe zone, a place between worlds. Ethan hesitated. Sounds like a trap. She smiled faintly. Or salvation, he sighed. All right then. Let's find your magic door. They climbed out through an emergency exit, emerging into the neon lights of the city. Night had fallen again, rain falling in thin sheets. The streets glowed blue and red with the reflection of signs and traffic lights. Ethan led them through the narrow alleys. Keeping to the shadows, drones flew overhead searching, their beams slicing through the mist. Leah clung to her mother, whispering, We're almost there. Ethan noticed something strange. Wherever Ilara walked, the rain seemed to bend around her, drops moving aside as if afraid to touch her. Finally, they reached a tall, abandoned tower. Ilara placed her hand on the wall and the bricks rippled like water. A glowing doorway appeared, shimmering with silver light. This is it, she said. Once we go through, we can't come back. Ethan stared at the light. Feeling his heart race, he looked at Leah's hopeful eyes. Then at Ilara's calm face, he took a deep breath. Then let's finish what we started. They stepped through the light together, and the doorway closed behind them. The city outside returned to silence, as if they had never been there at all. The light swallowed them whole. For a few seconds, Ethan felt weightless, like he was floating in air. Then the brightness faded, and he found himself standing on solid ground again. The air smelled clean, too clean. The sky above them wasn't dark or bright. It shimmered like glass, shifting between blue and silver. Around them stood massive stone arches, floating quietly over a glowing river that flowed through the air itself. Ethan looked around, speechless. Where are we? He whispered. Leah smiled softly. Home, she said, or what's left of it. Ilara stood beside her, her face calm but sad. This place is called the Verge, she said. It lies between worlds, not part of yours. Not part of mine. Ethan took a slow step forward, the ground humming faintly under his boots. The energy in the air made his skin tingle. It's beautiful, he said quietly. Ilara nodded. It was once full of life. Our people lived here before the war destroyed everything. Ethan frowned. War, he asked. Between who? Ilara's eyes darkened. Between us and our own creations, she said. The Syndicate, the ones who hunt us now. They were built to protect, but they turned against their makers. They wanted control over everything, including humanity. Ethan felt a chill run through him. Wait, you're saying they came to Earth before? Yes, she said. Long ago, our kind visited your world. We taught humans about light, metal, and energy. But the Syndicate followed. They wanted to rule instead of teach. Leah stepped closer to Ethan, holding his hand gently. Mom says you have the same spark they feared, she said softly. Ethan blinked. Spark. Ilara smiled faintly. Your world calls it curiosity. We call it creation. The power to build, to fix, to imagine something that doesn't exist yet. Ethan looked down, unsure how to respond. I'm just a mechanic, he said quietly. Ilara shook her head. You are more than that. When you repaired Leah's bracelet, you activated an ancient beacon, a signal our people had lost for centuries. Ethan's eyes widened. So that's why they came after me. Ilara nodded. They thought you were one of us. He looked around the shimmering land again, his heart beating faster. So what happens now? Ilara took a deep breath. Now you must decide what to do with what you know. Leah tugged on his sleeve. You can stay here with us, she said. You don't have to go back. Ethan hesitated. Stay here, he said slowly, in this place between worlds. Ilara looked at him. If you return to Earth, they will come again. They will destroy everything connected to you. But if you stay, you can help us rebuild what we lost. He stared at her, torn between fear and wonder. You want me to help rebuild an alien world, he said with a nervous laugh. She smiled gently. Not rebuild ours, she said. But protect yours. Ethan was silent for a while, thinking. I don't understand, he said finally. Ilara raised her hand and the air rippled, showing a vision, cities burning, people running, drones flying in the skies of Earth. This is your future if the Syndicate crosses completely, she said. The signal you fixed weakened the barrier. They will try again, Ethan watched in horror. So how do we stop them? Ilara's voice softened. By finishing what my husband started, she said. He built a device, the core of balance. It can close the path between worlds forever. But it was never completed. Ethan felt his stomach twist. And you think I can finish it? She nodded slowly. The core needs a human mind to stabilize it. Someone who believes in both reason and heart. You are that bridge. Leah looked at him with wide, hopeful eyes. Please, Ethan, she said. You helped me when no one else did. He looked at her small face and felt the weight of her words. He remembered that rainy night, the fear, the noise, and the little girl who said, They're coming. He took a deep breath. All right, he said quietly. Show me what to do. Ilara smiled, her eyes bright with a rare warmth. Then come with me, she said. She led him toward a large structure made of light and crystal. The walls moved like liquid, glowing softly. Inside, a sphere hovered in the center, spinning slowly, threads of gold and blue energy weaving around it. Ethan stared. That's the core. Ilara nodded. It's alive, waiting for a signal to complete itself. He stepped closer. Feeling its pulse through the air, his hands trembled slightly. So, how do I connect it? Ilara touched his shoulder gently. Not with wires, she said. With your mind, he frowned. My mind, yes, she said. The core reacts to emotion and thought. It reads intention, not metal. Ethan closed his eyes, his heart racing. He thought of Earth, the rain, the workshop, the little girl standing in the street. He thought of light and hope and second chances. The core glowed brighter, responding to him. Energy filled the room. Swirling around them, Ilara smiled, whispering, He was right about you. Ethan opened his eyes. Who? He asked. She looked at him softly. My husband, she said. He said one day, a human would save us all. The core flared bright gold, flooding the chamber with light. The verge trembled as if it could feel the heartbeat of two worlds connecting again. And somewhere far above them, in the dark sky of Earth, a new storm began to form. The light from the core filled the whole chamber. The air was hot and alive. Glowing threads of gold and blue energy swirling like a storm inside a dream. Ethan stood at the center, his heart pounding, his hands shaking slightly. Ilara and Leah watched from the edge of the platform. the mother's face calm but her eyes full of worry. The little girl's bracelet shone bright again, pulsing in rhythm with the core. "It's responding to him," Alara whispered. "He's sinking." Ethan could hear their voices faintly, but his mind was far away. The core wasn't just light. It was showing him memories, images flashing in his head like lightning. He saw Ilara's world before the war, floating cities, children laughing, skies filled with color. Then he saw them fall. He saw the syndicate rise on their machines marching across burning lands. A voice echoed in his mind, soft but deep. "You see now what they took," Ethan gasped. "Who are you?" The voice answered, "I am the memory of the first creator. The core is my echo. You carry the same light he once did." "I don't understand," Ethan whispered. "Understanding is not required," the voice said. "Choice is." Before he could ask more, the chamber shook violently. The light of the core flickered. Ilara turned sharply. "They're here," she said. A deep mechanical roar filled the verge, and the air cracked open behind them. 3 syndicate drones broke through the barrier, their metallic bodies glowing red, followed by a larger shadow, tall, armored. With eyes burning like molten glass, Ethan stumbled backward. "What is that?" Ilara's voice was tight. "A warden?" "A leader of the syndicate." The warden's voice echoed through the chamber. "Cold and heavy. Give us the child and the human." "The core belongs to us," Ilara stepped forward, her hands glowing silver. "You destroyed our home once," she said. "You won't destroy it again?" The warden raised an arm, firing a beam of red energy. Ilara blocked it with a shimmering shield, sparks flying in all directions. The ground shook under the impact. Leah screamed, "Mom!" Ethan ran toward her, pulling her behind a pillar. "Stay down," he said. Ilara pushed forward. Fighting with everything she had, her light clashed with the warden's fire. The air filled with flashes of silver and red. Ethan looked at the core, still spinning wildly. "It's unstable," he shouted. "It's drawing in too much power." The voice in his head returned. "It must choose. It needs your final command." Ethan turned to Leah. "I need to finish it," he said, "but I don't know how." Leah grabbed his hand. "You have to think of something worth saving," she said softly. "That's what Mom always says." He looked into her bright eyes, and something in his heart shifted. He wasn't fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for them, for a chance to protect what was still good. He took a deep breath, then ran straight toward the core. The warden saw him and roared, sending a blast of red fire across the floor. Ethan dove behind the energy ring, sparks burning his jacket. "Human!" the warden shouted. "You don't understand what power you touch," Ethan shouted back. "Maybe not, but I know what I'm fighting for." He pressed his hands against the core. Closing his eyes, the world exploded in light. Memories flooded through him again. Earth, his lonely workshop. The little girl in the rain, her voice saying, "They're coming," he whispered. "Not anymore," the core answered. Glowing brighter than before, the whole chamber trembled. Cracks opening in the walls. Energy rushed out like wind, knocking the drones into the air. Ilara shielded Leah, shouting, "Ethan, stop! You'll burn yourself." Ethan's voice came from the light, steady and calm. "It's okay," he said. "It's my choice." The warden tried to push forward, but his metal body started melting, his red lights fading into black. He screamed as the light swallowed him. Then, silence. The energy settled, floating like soft dust in the air. The core's glow dimmed to a gentle silver. Ethan stood in the middle, barely breathing, his hands still glowing faintly. Ilara ran to him, catching his arm before he fell. "You did it," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "You sealed the path," Ethan smiled weakly. "Guess I'm a better mechanic than I thought." The chamber was quiet again. Only the sound of the core's slow hum remained. Leah ran to Ethan and hugged him tightly. "You saved us," she said. He looked at her, smiling softly. "No, we saved each other." Ilara placed her hand over his. "You could stay," she said. "The core will protect you here." "You don't have to go back." Ethan looked at her silver eyes full of light, at the little girl clutching his arm, at the strange beauty of the world around them. Then he looked up at the shimmering sky. Remembering the city he left behind, he took a deep breath. "If I stay, who protects them?" he asked quietly. "Someone has to make sure this never happens again." Ilara nodded slowly, her voice breaking. "Then take our light with you," she said, placing her hand on his chest. A small spark moved from her palm into him, glowing softly inside his heart. When your world forgets hope, she said. You'll remember this, Ethan smiled faintly. I'll try. And as the light of the verge began to fade around them, Ethan stepped forward, ready to face whatever waited beyond the gate between worlds. The world felt quiet again, too quiet. The wind brushed through the trees, and the sky above the city was soft and blue. Birds flew across the rooftops, unaware that a storm had been stopped before it ever reached them. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. He was lying on the floor of his workshop, the same small room where everything began. The tools, the machines, the rain stains on the window, all exactly as before. For a moment he thought it had all been a dream. Then he saw the bracelet lying on his work table, glowing faintly in the afternoon light. He sat up slowly, his heart heavy with confusion and wonder. Elara, he whispered, Leah. But no one answered. For the next few days, Ethan lived quietly. He went to work, fixed machines, and tried to tell himself that life was normal again. But every night he'd look at the bracelet, feeling that faint hum of energy inside it, a reminder of the world between worlds. Then one evening, something strange happened. The air around the workshop shimmered. A soft vibration filled the room. Ethan stood up quickly, his heart racing. The bracelet on the table began to glow bright white, and a beam of light opened in front of him. From that light stepped Leah, her smile the same as before. Ethan, she said softly. Mom said we could visit. Ethan stared in shock. Leah, you're here. Before he could finish, another figure appeared behind her, tall, graceful, her silver hair glowing under the dim light. It was Elara. She looked around the workshop, her eyes soft with nostalgia. So this is your world, she said quietly. Small, but full of heart. Ethan smiled faintly. It's not much, he said. But it's home. Leah ran to him and hugged his leg tightly. Mom says we can stay for a while, she said. No one is chasing us anymore. Ethan knelt down and hugged her back, the warmth of her small arms feeling real, solid, human. I'm glad, he whispered. Elara watched them for a moment, then walked closer. The Corps has sealed the gate, she said. The Syndicate can't cross anymore. But it also means we are cut off from our own kind. Ethan looked up at her. So you can't go back? She shook her head gently. No, she said, but maybe that's a gift. Not a curse. For a while the room was filled with quiet. The light from the evening sun painted golden lines across the floor. The hum of the machines felt peaceful again. Ethan sat with them, made tea, and told stories about Earth, about rain. Music and human laughter. Leah listened with wide eyes, and Elara smiled like someone remembering a dream. But as night fell, Elara grew quiet. She looked at Ethan with a kind of sadness that words couldn't hold. You changed everything, she said softly. You gave us life again. Ethan shook his head. No, you gave me something to believe in, he said. I was just a man fixing broken things, but you showed me that even broken worlds can be repaired. Leah had fallen asleep on the couch. Her bracelet flickering gently, Elara moved closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan, she said, I have to ask you something. He turned to her. Surprised, what is it? She hesitated for a long moment, as if searching for courage. When we left the verge, the Corps showed me something on a possible future, she said. One where our worlds could join, not through war or machines, but through love. Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. Love, he repeated softly. She nodded, her eyes glowing faintly silver. Our people cannot survive without connection. Without emotion, we lost that long ago, but you reminded me what it means to care, to hope. She took his hand gently, her touch warm but pulsing with quiet energy. Ethan, she said softly, will you be my husband? The words hit him like thunder. He stared at her speechless. Elara, she smiled faintly. You don't have to answer now, she said. But know this, when you saved Leah, when you touched the Corps, our lives became part of yours. The light inside you is linked to ours forever. Ethan felt his chest tighten. His heart raced. He had lived his whole life alone, fixing machines that didn't matter, and now, here was someone from another world asking him to build a new one. He looked at her glowing eyes, at the peace on Leah's sleeping face, and then back at the stars shining faintly outside his window. He took a deep breath. If I say yes, he asked, what happens next? Elara smiled gently. Then we begin again, she said. A new world, not above or below, but here. Between, Ethan laughed softly. Between worlds, he whispered. Sounds like a bad name for a love story. Alara laughed too, her voice like wind over water. Then make it a good one, she said. Leah stirred in her sleep, mumbling, Mom, is he staying with us? Alara looked at Ethan, her eyes warm. Yes, she said softly. He's staying. Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of his old loneliness lift. For the first time, the world didn't feel broken. The rain began to fall again outside, gentle and calm. Not like the storm that started it all. Inside the workshop, 3 lives sat together under the soft hum of light. 1 human, 1 child, and 1 being from another world, united not by fear but by choice. And as the night deepened, the silver glow from Alara's eyes and the soft pulse from Leah's bracelet filled the room with warmth. A quiet promise that even across galaxies love could rebuild what time had tried to destroy.